You know, stereotypes and bias and prejudice is culturally conditioned, and people are taught their biases and their prejudices. We can go into a whole, philosophical, theoretical analysis of the origins of racism. I mean, there's an economic competition theory. There's the authoritarian personality theory. Now, those are really interesting intellectual, academic debates, but I think that most people would believe that the learning of bias and racist attitudes occurs during a socialization process. That almost all of us who are born and raised in the United States can be seen as victims of a cultural conditioning imbued with biases, whether they are racist, sexist, homophobic, or whatnot. And how does this occur? Well, we know in developmental psychology that kids as young as 3 to 4 years begin to note differences. That's when they begin. They aren't necessarily aware of themselves as a racial, cultural being, but they see differences. It's a normal process here. Now, this noticing of differences is not associated with anything negative. At about 6 to 7 years of age, the associating of differences, visible racial ethnic minority differences, begins to occur where good, bad qualities are associated with it. And this is where the stereotypes that I referred to earlier become incalculated or, embedded in the worldview of the sons and daughters that we raise. It is really quite inefficient for us to try to evaluate everything individually so that the mind bundles data and we begin to associate things as friend and foe, good and bad, danger, safety. I mean, these things are bundled together. Now, those are normal processes that are going on, but the bundling of the information is the meaning of those bundles are socially conditioned and learned. And so when you begin to see racial differences, what we call visible racial ethnic minority differences, what parents and our society teaches us is that there are lesser beings in our society and that they are to be feared. They are less intelligent. They are people we don't associate with.
Well, I'm sort of optimistic about the future with respect to stereotyping and prejudice. And one of the reasons why is that I think a lot of the research has suggested that, some of the things that we see in terms of stereotyping and prejudice with respect to how we think about members of groups that don't belong to our groups, it does seem to be sort of hardwired. It's sort of a byproduct of the way we process information about the world. And in that sense, it seems like it's inevitable. It's something that we're not going to be able to do anything about. But there are other things that happen to people, things that are changes, that are physical changes, for example, like the loss of eyesight, so that people's eyesight deteriorates over time. And human beings are pretty smart, so we can develop different kinds of tactics or methods, eyeglasses, contact lenses, to help to correct vision that's been deteriorating over time. So that's a natural process that we've been smart enough to try to come up with a way to help to correct that so that people don't have to deal with that inevitable outcome. And I think of stereotyping and prejudice in a very similar sense in that, again, it's going to be difficult, and a lot of it is going to be more about the struggle than it is going to be about the potential outcome. But if we can think creatively about ways in which we can change people's initial motivations to try to deal with some of these issues and these problems, to see beyond the cover and to try to judge the book by its pages, so to speak, if we can also take advantage of the fact that we know that settings can create sort of automatic associations. We get a lot of information about other groups from what we see in the media, what we see from other people, what our peers tell us, how we observe other people interacting. And if we can do some small things to try to change the context under which those things take place, then we can make a lot of progress towards changing the information that people are getting as they age, as they get older, that would then lead to the income, or lead to the sort of contribute to the interactions that they have with other people. So I think there's a lot of strategies that we can do in the short term. Just get people motivated to try to do something about their stereotyping, realize it's a problem, and try to do something about it in terms of influencing their interactions. But in the longer term, it's going to take a longer, sort of a broader, more societal effort to try to change the nature of the information that we get about groups in society to the point that when we do develop these associations don't have negative implications for certain members of groups and positive implications for others. So I'm somewhat optimistic. I do believe that it's going to be a difficult road to hoe, but for the most part, we're smart. We can figure things out like that, and I think that the effort towards it is really important.